Hello, everyone. Welcome to Becoming Bold Podcast, and welcome back to another episode. So, in this episode, I will be talking about forgiveness and how sometimes it can be hard to forgive ourselves, other people, and even God sometimes, which is crazy to say on why I have that written down, but you guys will see in a moment on what I mean by that. I want to talk about forgiving ourselves and why it can be hard and challenging to forgive ourselves after we fall into temptation or we feel like we got God mad, right? Usually, what happens when we fall into temptation or we do something that we know we're not supposed to do is our first instinct sometimes is to run from God, not tell God what we did, clean up our act, and then when I get it all together, I'll come back to God, right? Where do we see this exact example from? We see it in Genesis when Adam and Eve ate from the apple, right? And you clearly see that they ran from God, they hid from Him, right? And what did God do? He looked for them. He said, "Where are you?" Right? And isn't that so gracious enough to where we serve a God to where even in our mistakes, even in our wrongs, He's still looking for us. He wants us to come to Him. He's giving that open invitation to come to Him. And I feel like, especially those, unbelievers who say, well, I've done this. I am this person. I feel like God wouldn't love me. I feel like God wouldn't want me. And that's stemming off of unforgiveness towards ourselves because we feel like we aren't good enough for God. We feel like we are such a horrible person that God wouldn't love someone like me, right? And that's absolutely wrong, guys. Like, that's a lie from the enemy. We have to remember that God doesn't condemn us. He says in His word that there's no condemnation for those who love Him. And I feel like if we keep reminding ourselves that and planting that in our hearts, that would allow us to learn how to forgive ourselves when we slip up. I remember in college when I used to have my episodes of depression and sadness or whatever, I used to run to secular music for comfort, right? I would listen to the Rod Wave, stuff that will make it worse. It wasn't until after I realized, like, when the feeling went away, when I'm no longer sad, I'm like, dang, I should have went to God instead. And what I used to do was I used to want to clean up my act. I would just be like, okay, I'm going to delete YouTube, delete SoundCloud, and I would not listen to music for a couple of days and then go to God as if nothing happened. Like, I wouldn't talk about what I did, anything like that. I just would go to Him and was like, all right, God, what you want to tell me for today? And it's like the cycle would just repeat and repeat and repeat. And it's like, how can we invite God into helping us overcome a particular sin that we are actively living in if we're not going to be open and honest with Him that we are struggling with this? We need to go to God about what it is that we're struggling with and tell Him, like, hey, Lord, I have this porn addiction. Hey, Lord, I have this social media addiction. Hey, Lord, I can't stop listening to secular music. Tell Him that. Ask Him, Lord, how can I partner up with you onto overcoming this particular sin that I'm struggling with? That's the first step to forgiving ourselves because we're acknowledging that we are sinners, right? Which is what God wants us to do. Because mind you, we have to understand that God did not come for those who are healthy, for those who got it all together or whatever. He came for the sick. So acknowledging one that you are a sinner in need of a savior is the first step to forgiving yourself. So with that being said, we have to be more open to God about what it is that we are dealing with, what it is that's causing us to be mad at ourselves. Because mind you, all this does is open up a door to where insecurity can creep in. And when insecurity creeps in, the lies of the enemy also comes in as well. And then we go down this whole rabbit hole of, God, I dislike myself. God, I am not good enough. God, how can you use me? Right? And this all started because we did not forgive ourselves for the very thing that we've done. And that is something that we have to be open to God about. Be open to Him about what it is that you're dealing with, that you're struggling with, and it will help you with overcoming unforgiveness towards yourself. Number two, let's talk about forgiving others. Forgiving others is, I can say, a very hard thing to do, right? We've been hurt by someone, and this particular person to us is a bad guy, right? And so now we hold this grudge towards this person, and all this does, it just does this weird feeling on the inside, right? There's this weird feeling on the inside, and it's like, I feel like a lot of us, we don't realize that this person is living their regular lives, their normal lives, right? They're not thinking about you or anything of that sort of nature, but you're still thinking about this person, you're still thinking about this situation that had happened, and you're not at peace. You're not at peace and within. So it's like, why does God tell us to forgive, right? One, he tells us to forgive because he forgave us first. And that's something we have to think about, you know? Like, we clearly see that even in our sin, God knows that we will never be perfect, right? He knows we will never be perfect because we were born into sin. So God still makes a decision every single day, every second, every minute, whatever it is, to forgive us when we ask for forgiveness from the Lord, right? We even see with Paul, right? Paul killed how many Christians? How countless amount of Christians, but God still used them. God forgave him, and now Paul done wrote like half of the New Testament, right? He done wrote half of the New Testament, and like that just shows the love that we should be having towards these people that hurt us, the forgiveness that we need to have. Sometimes we don't even realize that forgiving this person can probably lead them towards Christ, right? Because it'll have them thinking like, why did they forgive me? And then it's like, if you explain to them like, yo, I forgive you. You probably didn't mean what you did. Probably didn't mean what you said. And I just want to say that I forgive you. So now this probably might put this specific type of guilt on this person, and they might reconsider what they've done. But that's not always the case sometimes. Sometimes you can forgive this person and they never change. But we have to understand forgiveness isn't for that person. It's for God and ourselves, right? Because at the end of the day, we are the ones that is dealing with this feeling, this internal unease that we feel every day towards this person. And we can't live our normal lives, right? I'm pretty sure, you probably have a hard time living your normal life because you're thinking about what this person done. And another thing too, what this can do is like, let's say if it's a guy or a girl that hurts you in a relationship with a particular ex, right? And then God sends you the right one, you're gonna just bring all of that hurt and pain into your next relationship, right? So notice how it's normalized in society to where this unforgiveness is held, right? A particular boy breaks up with us or he cheats on us, and then we be like, you know what? I'm never going to date again. I'm never going to trust another guy again, right? And then they end up getting into a relationship because we all know that they were just chatting, right? You get in another relationship, and then it's like, you bring all those toxic habits like, oh, let me see your phone. Let me see who you talking to. Where you going, right? And we bring all of that, and then it's like the person did absolutely nothing wrong to you, but you're only acting like that because the last did it to you. Hello? Like, we're literally just bringing that into the new. And it's like, we can't do that because that's how you may end up hurting this person. And then they just bring that into the next because they're holding on to that. And so it's a never ending cycle of unforgiveness that needs to be dealt with, right? And so I can say, and I'm speaking from experience, it's all just stemming from past hurt, like of not forgiving what the person did to me in the past and not forgiving the situation. And we also see this in the church hurt, right? We get hurt by somebody in the church and then be like, you know what, I'm never going to go to church again. We have to understand that the church is filled with imperfect people. No, there's not a single human being existing right now that is perfect. There is only one person that did, live a perfect life, and his name was Jesus. Nobody else can live a perfect life. We're all imperfect, which means everybody in the church is imperfect. So to have this expectation that because you're going to the church that you won't get hurt is kind of crazy. We are all sinners. We have to understand that we are all sinners. So you're going to get hurt everywhere you go by any and everybody. Going to God, asking God, hey God, I want to heal from this that had happened so that I'm able to receive the new in my life. All right, guys. So the last one I'm going to touch on is forgiving God. For those who, like even myself, who had an expectation. So for an example, right? Let's say God tells you to go to this particular event. He tells you to talk to this person. He tells you to post this video, right? And he doesn't tell us why. He just says, do it, right? And then you got us on the other side to where it's like, well, since God told me to go to this event, maybe I'll meet my Boaz, or maybe I'll meet my bestie, right? So we're putting this expectation on what it is God told us to do, and then it doesn't happen. So now we're mad at God. Like, God, you wasted my time. I thought my Boaz was over there. Like, what is going on? And then we get mad at God. We turn away from him. We don't talk to him. And then we just end up in this pity party, right? So that's why I was trying to say I don't necessarily believe forgiving God is a thing, because it's a pride issue. It's a pride issue that needs resolving, because we need to do better with lowering our expectations on, all right, God, like if you said for me to do this, I am open to whatever happens, okay? I am open to whatever it is that you need me to learn going over there. Because what if he wants you to go to that event because whoever is speaking is going to say something pertaining to a situation or a question that you had, right? Or what if he wants you to talk to the specific person because he wants you to pray for them because they are having a hard time in life right now? Okay? So it's like being open to like just doing what God tells you to do, but not having an expectation on what will happen because he told you to do that. And that will help lower this expectation or this sense of, God, you told me to do it. This is what I think is going to happen. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to be mad at you. So it's like humbling ourselves before the Lord and just understanding our place, right? We have to understand that God is God. He sees all, he knows all, he's omnipresent. He knows the beginning to the end, right? And wouldn't it make sense to just stay in our place as dirt? You know, stay in our place as humans and being like, okay, God, I'm going to let you drive, okay? You know everything. And if you're telling me to do something, it means that there is a specific reason onto why you want me to do this thing. And like I said, everything that I was saying, I'm speaking from experience. So I know how it feels to where you feel like, you know, he's telling you to do something and nothing is on the other side. Then you get upset and it's just like, I understand, guys. I understand it's hard. It's hard to stay in this place as a child, but we have to understand that God knows it all. And he's a loving father, so there's nothing that he would tell us to do to where it's simply out of just to harm us. You know, he says it in Jeremiah 29 verse 11 to where he has plans to prosper us and not to harm us. Another example too is we make our own plans for our lives, whether it's goals or whatever it is. We don't reach that goal or the plan doesn't happen. And then we be like, God isn't real. This is why we have so many people, quote unquote, turning away from the faith, because we plan our own lives. We plan our own lives, blame God, and then get mad at him and then say, I am no longer a Christian. And then we post it on social media, spreading false lies about God. All of this is all stemming from a pride issue. Being mad at God is a pride issue that needs resolving. It needs to be resolved immediately, because how can God do anything in your life with pride being in the way. What happened to the last person that allowed pride to run their life? He got kicked out of heaven. He got kicked out of heaven for it, y'all. So we have to do better with just letting God take control of our lives and lowering our expectations on certain things and just accepting. And that would just help our relationship with God, help us mature. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this episode. I really hope this encouraged you to go to the Lord and ask Him for forgiveness towards others, ask Him for forgiveness towards yourself, and fully surrender your life to the Lord. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.